Lekulam, and welcome to the second part of our lesson on Kabbalistic revelations of the Book of Ruth. We're going to continue with our lesson. Let's do a little overview of what we have learned so far. Basically, this is the story of Ruth. Basically, it's Malchut trying to attain the attributes of Bina. Malchut is the desire to receive, Bina is the desire to uh, receive in order to bestow. And Boaz is the desire to give, right? It's considered the redeemer. So we talk about the field in our previous lesson, and the field is basically this word of chaos, this word that needs to be corrected. That it's a word where all these sparks fell after the breaking of the vessels, and it belongs to three levels or three words called Briat, Yesira, and Asiya. This is where the sparks are basically trapped, and we need to elevate them to the word of Atzilut, which is called the orchard, where in here we do the barley, right, or the wheat. This is a harvest that is a lot of work, and in order to satisfy our desires right away. Here we have basically trees, or these fruit trees take longer. It's a lot of work, but the fruit takes longer for us to use and be satisfied with. So this is when we are looking at the Book of Ruth, and we see that Ruth is working on a field, on a wheat field. This is basically what she's doing. She's trying to correct this world here by elevating the sparks that are within her. What spark? Now we're going to talk about reincarnation in this lesson. What spark is within her? So Ruth comes from the land of Moab, and the land of Moab was a land that was basically a land that was full of idolatry. This land that was full of idolatry uh, had in it a spark that was hidden, and that spark was Ruth. That's why Ruth was able to not only connect to Mahlon, the son of Naomi, but also after his death, because of his disconnection with from the the land of Israel and the people of Israel, he basically died. Within herself, that spark of Mahlon was also hidden. So, in order for that spark to be revealed once again, basically for this soul to come back to life, to be reincarnated once again, she needed a redeemer. That redeemer can only be from the same family, from the same root soul as this other soul, in this case Mahlon, came from. So this is Boaz, and the levirate uh, marriage is all about that. If let's say a woman loses her husband and she's basically a widow and has no children, the brother of that of her husband can redeem her by giving her children, right? So that's basically the levirate marriage. It was basically to not let the name of this other person die. So in the case of Ruth, there was no brother for Mahlon because Mahlon died and his brother also died, and there was no children. So also Ruth was not an Israelite; she was from Moab. So how can this soul actually be reincarnated in Israel and also be part of this or be born within the group soul that he used to belong, like Elimelech, his father, used to belong. So it's through Boaz, the closest family member. Just like in Tamar, when she had two husbands, the two husbands died, and she basically needed to trick Yehuda in order to be redeemed, in order for this soul of Tamar basically being born. And she had twins. The two husbands reincarnated, right? And one of them, of course, we know that he wasn't that good because he was basically, in other words, spilling the seed and all that. So he died. That husband, it's it's redeemed. He was born again, but it's through Perez, the one that corrected, the tikkun, that this line for the kingship and the Messiah is gonna come, and then Ruth is gonna be part of that line, uh, uh, that's gonna lead to the kingship of David and eventually to the Messiah. The only difference that we see here is because Ruth have only one husband, there's only one son that she's gonna have, because that's that soul that is going to be reincarnated. So keep that in mind. That's why Tamar have twins because of two husbands, and that's why Ruth will have only one child because of one husband. Okay. Um, so that's basically. I think. Let's see if I have it here. We read from Derek Hashem, The Way of God. Um, if you have this book, basically, it's in the part that it says Providence, part 2, Providence, item or part 2, Providence, chapter 3, Individual Providence. And it's going to be item 9. That's, those of you, this book here. So it says, in all this is not only a result of justice, but also follows from the actual order of things as discussed earlier. As a result of man's sin, corruption is increased and incorporated into both man and the world. This in turn causes God's light to be increasingly retracted and hidden. The more this corruption is cleansed, on the other hand, and the more people are purified of it, the more God's light is once again revealed step by step. Suffering is the thing that God created to cleanse this pollution, both in general and in particular. Thus, through the suffering of these select individuals, creation is in general is cleansed, and step by step the world is brought closer to perfection. And then item 10, there is another important principle regarding God's providence. God arranged matters so that man's chances of achieving ultimate salvation should be maximized, as discussed earlier. A single soul can be reincarnated a number of times in different bodies, and in this manner it can rectify the damage done in previous incarnation. Similarly, it can also achieve perfection that was not attained in its previous incarnation. So this is a reason for these souls to be reincarnated through these two women. We have Perez, which was one of the souls of these two sons of Yehuda, that corrected itself to the point that he was able to become part of this lineage that eventually is going to be the lineage of David. And the same way with the son of Ruth, it was basically the soul of Malon that was reincarnated through her by the redemption done by Boaz. So this is the secret of reincarnation inside the Book of Ruth. Okay, so let's start reading the book. We're on chapter 3, so we're gonna start chapter 3. Then Naomi, her mother-in-law, said to her, "My daughter, shall I not seek a home for thee, that I may be well with thee? And now is not Boaz of our kindred, with whose maiden you were. Behold, he winnows barley tonight in the threshing floor. Wash thyself, therefore, and anoint thyself." The wash thyself basically, is basically like do some kind of a mikveh, right? And anoint herself, is allusion to, to be anointed to Mashiach, right? And put raiment upon thee, and get thee down to the threshing floor, but do not make thyself known to the man until he has finished eating and drinking. So this is a celebration of the harvest. The word basically like Sukkot is here, right? So they're outside in the field. They're celebrating the harvest, eating and drinking. This is basically receiving the light of Chokmah and, through these vessels of basically seramping, receiving this light from Bina. And this is why Naomi says, to Ruth, Malchut, wait until he's fully satisfied, and then, after that, make thyself known to the man, you know. And it shall be when he lies down that thou shalt mark the place where he shall lie, and thou shalt go in and uncover his feet, and lay thee down, and he will tell you what you shall do. And she said to her, all that you say to me I will do. And she went down to the threshing floor, and did according to all the mother-in-law, told her to do. And when Boaz had eaten and drunk, and his heart was merry, he went to lay down at the end of the heap of the corn, and she came softly and uncovered his feet and laid herself down. So let's go back to lessons. So what's happening here is Bina, let me go back here. Bina is starting, even though here, it doesn't say that Naomi is giving to Boaz or anything like that. We're talking here about forces, okay? But Naomi is already know what's happening with Boaz. Already know what Boaz is going to do according to the movement of these forces in this here, right? So she knows that once he start filling all his vessels, all his sefirot, which is seramping, then he will lay down on the what is called the threshing floor, which is the area of Yesod. And all that Ruth needs to do is mark the place and uncover his feet. And what is his feet? This is the field, remember? So Ruth is Malchut, and Malchut is going to reveal the Raglaim, which is the feet, the legs. So it's basically reveal herself, even though it's his feet, she's revealing herself as her Malchut, her future wife, a future, feminine aspect of this whole system or parsuf that will create then or elevate the sparks that will falling in the world of Bia, which is the nations or Moab. And then she will bring herself together with that soul within herself that is of her husband to the land of Israel. Okay? So let's go back to the text. And it came to pass at midnight that the man was startled and turned over, and behold, a woman lay in his feet. So a woman lay in his feet. Remember, seramping Malchut. So we look at seramping. Seramping is above, and Malchut is down, basically on his feet. Okay, so that's what it's saying here. And he said, who are you? And she answered, I am Ruth, your handmaid. Spread therefore your skirt over thy handmaid, for thou art a near kinsman. And he said, blessed be thou of the Lord, my daughter, for thou hast shown more loyalty in the letter and than at the beginning, inasmuch as thou didst not follow the young men, whether poor or rich. And now, my daughter, fear not, I will do to you all that you require, for all the city of my people know that you are a virtuous woman. And now it is true that I am your near kinsman, yet there is a kinsman nearer than I. Tarry this night, and it shall be in the morning that, if he will perform to thee the part of a kinsman, well, let him do the kinsman part. But if he will not do the part of kinsman to thee, then will I do the part of a kinsman to thee, as the Lord lives, lay down until the morning. And she lay at his feet until the morning, and she rose up before one could recognize another person. And he said, let it not be known that a woman came into the threshing floor. So one thing that we need to understand here when it says that the Ad Haboker, basically, at Haboker. Not only that, also, I mentioned here, that he's the Ishgal, the Redeemer, right? So he's the Ishgal of her. But also it says, that in the morning, means basically the 500 years before the Gamar Hatikun. Okay, 500 years before the Gamar Hatikun. What is 500 years before the Gamar Hatikun? Let's go back to the sketch. So what you have is each of these world here are 2000 years. 2000, 2000, 2000. Those are gonna be 600,000 or 6,000 years of correction. Okay, this also symbolizes the 6 days of creation, and then Shabbat, which is Atzilut. So basically, like around this area here, there will be 500 years before the seventh millennium. So it's telling us, which level, is happening here. It's called at Haboker, um, in the morning, basically. Let me read from the zohar. Let's see if I can find the page specifically. Zohar you're gonna find in the Sifra de Seinuta. Gonna find has to work for 6,000 years, or basically humanity has to work for 6,000. Actually, they can have what is called the consciousness being born in each individual. So basically, this is what's happening here. Is telling basically that once this Mahut start connecting with the Yesod of Seramping, that there's going to be a redemption pretty soon, right? So let's go back to the text. So he says, also he said, bring the veil that thou hast upon thee and hold it. And when she held it, he measured 6 measures of barley and laid it on her, and he went into the city. So these 6 measures of barley are basically the 6,000 years of correction. Okay. Also, he symbolically alluded to her by giving her, these 6 barley grains, that 6 righteous men, each possessing 6 outstanding virtues, are destined to descend from this marriage. And that was going to be David, the Messiah, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. And this is according to Talmud Sanhedrin 93a and b. Okay? So, and when she came to her mother-in-law, she said, who art thou, my daughter? And she told her all that the man had done to her. And she said, these 6 measures of barley he gave me, for he said to me, do not go empty to thy mother-in-law. Now, let's go back to the sketch that we have. So this is Marhut. Marhut is 1. Inside Seramping we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 vessels. So what Boaz did was he gave basically light to her, from these 6 vessels. And Mahut, Ruth, was able to elevate itself to Naomi, and Naomi then asked, basically, who art thou, Miat, Miat. It's like she doesn't recognize her, but she still call her Bati, my daughter, you know. So Miat, and you go like, doesn't she know? And she's kind of blind or things like that. It's because Marhus has changed the nature into almost Bina, okay? So almost the same attributes. So this is when when she came to her mother-in-law, she said, "Who art thou?" Me at right here, Bati. Who art thou, my daughter? So then she says, "Sit still, my daughter, until thou know how the matter will fall, for the man will not rest quiet until he finishes the matter today." Chapter 4. Then Boaz went up to the gate and sat down there, and behold, the kinsman of whom Boaz spoke came by, into whom he said, "Who there such and such a one? Turn aside, sit down." And he turned aside and sat down. And he took, very important, 10 men of the elders of the city and said, "Sit down here." And they sat down. Remember, city is the body. This is basically talking about our body, ourselves. 10 men is a full tree of life. And they sat down. And he said to the kinsman, Naomi, who is come back out of the country of Moab, is selling a parcel of land which was our brother's Elimelech. And I thought to advise thee of it, saying, Buy it in the presence of the inhabitants and in the presence of the elders of my people. If thou wilt redeem it, redeem it. But if thou wilt not redeem it, then tell me, that I may know, for there is none to redeem it besides thee, and I am after you. And he said, I will redeem it. Then said Boaz, on the day that you buy the field from the hand of Naomi, you must buy also from Ruth the Moabite, the wife of the dead, to rise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance. This is very important, because uh, uh, so basically saying is to elevate the name of the dead upon his inheritance, and that's the secret here about the reincarnation. Basically saying what you're gonna be doing is not only that you buy in the field, that you're not only uh, correcting this field, but you also need to buy this area that is full of probably an egoistic desire, and that you must also correct and redeem. And the answer of this kinsman is that he cannot redeem it for myself, lest I harm my own inheritance, lest these forces of Tumai, then come to me, and I basically fall out of grace. Take my right of redemption for thyself, for I cannot redeem it. Now this was the custom in former time in Israel concerning redeeming and concerning exchanging, to confirm all manners of transactions. A man pulled off his shoe and gave it to the neighbor, and this was the manner of attesting in Israel. Therefore the kinsman said to Boaz, Buy for thyself, and he drew off his shoe. And Chelitza, that's called Chelitza. Chelitza basically is not only, kind of like transaction or anything like that, but in Kabbalah, Chelitza actually means, shame of the soul. The soul basically is to be shamed because of not being able to perform this levirate marriage and redeem the soul of another uh, member of the family of this root soul that they all belong. And Boaz said to the elders and to all the people, You are witness this day that I have bought all that was Elimelech's, and all that was Kilion and Malon's from the hand of Naomi. So basically, he has acquired these 3 lines. So let me go back to, so I can. So basically, what he did was he had bought all that was Elimelech. Elimelech means, these 2 Sephirot here, Yesod and Tifaret. All that was Kilion, which is Geburah and Hod, and all that was Malon, which is Chesed and Nesach. Okay? from the hand of Naomi, from Naomi, which is from the fruit of Bina. Then let's continue reading. It says, moreover, Ruth the Moabite, the wife of Mahlon, have I acquired as my wife, to rise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance, that the name of the dead be not cut off from among his brethren, and from the gate of his place your witness this day. Now, it says, and all the people that were in the gate, and the elders said, we are witness, the Lord make the woman that is coming to thy house like Rachel and Leah, which two did build the house of Israel, and be prosperous in Ephrata, and be famous in Bethlehem. This is very important, the blessing that they're giving, because they're giving the blessing of two of the mothers of Israel. And the reason for that is the following. When you study Kabbalah, you're going to see that Malchut is going to be Rachel, and Bina is going to be Leah. And what they're doing is a blessing in which the blessing basically means may the aspects of Malchut and Bina be joined together in order to bestow this light to the rest of Israel, and just as Rachel and Leah did. Because the two build the house of Israel, the two build the house of those who are Yashar Kel, those who want to go directly to the Creator, okay? And then be prosper in Ephrata means that they be prosper in this state of like being the elite, and be famous in Bethlehem. And let that house be like the house of Perez. Remember Perez, one of the sons of Tamar, who Tamar bore to Yehuda, and the seed which the Lord shall give thee of this woman. So Boaz took Ruth, and she was his wife. It means they connected, they made a sivuk, a coupling, right? And he went into her, and the Lord gave her concession, and she bore a son. And the woman said to Naomi, blessed is the Lord, who has not left thee this day without a redeemer, that his name may be famous in Israel. And he shall be to thee a restorer of thy life, and a nourisher of thy old age, for thy daughter-in-law who loves thee, who is better to thee than 7 sons, she has borne him. And when it says, 7 sons, let me go quickly here. The 7 sons, it says, and she's better than 7 sons. The Midrash says the following, that it refers to the 7 sons of Jesse, enumerated in Chronicles, the first book of Chronicles, chapter 2:13. And also, it may also reference to the 7 generations listed in the verses 18 and 21 of the Book of Ruth, which we're going to read later. And Naomi took the child and laid it on her bosom, and became nurse to it. Okay? And the women, her neighbors, gave it a name, saying, there is a son born to Naomi, and they call his name Oved. He is the father of Yishai, the father of David. So now remember that Naomi was enabled basically to have a family. This is basically erased. So now the whole system is connected. So now Bina, which is the mother, right? Now Bina has a son, and Bina has a daughter. Remember, she called it Bati, the daughter. Now she has a son through Boaz. And it is said, in the tradition, that Boaz, after Ruth conceived, Boaz died. So we can say also that this son also can be called, Oved, who is, Oved means, a servant of the Lord, basically. Servant of the Lord. So it says here, go back to the text. Obed was the father of Yishai, the father of David. So it's already telling us, that this um, was the Obed was the grandfather of uh, David. Now these are the generations of Perez. Perez, remember, is the son of Tamar, who tricked Yehuda to redeem, basically redeem her, and so she can actually redeem the souls of her two husbands. And Perez was the one chosen for the lineage of the kingship and the Messiah. So Perez begot Hezron, Hezron begot Ram, and Ram begot Aminadav. Aminadav begot Nashon, and Nashon begot Salma. And Salma or Salmon begot Boaz. And Boaz begot Obed, and Obed begot Jishai, and Jishai begot David. And this is the lineage of basically the kingship of Israel. So we have basically the following. So we got Perez and Hesed. You got Hezron, which is Geburah. Then you got Ram, which is Tifaret. Then you got Aminadav, which is Nesak. The Aminadav got Nashon, and Nashon is Hod. Nashon got Salma, Salma is Yesod. Salma got Boaz, and Boaz begot Obed, and Obed begot Jishai, and Jishai begot David. So this is after all this, basically what we're gonna have is David, who's gonna be Mahud. So you're gonna see all that. So Boaz basically incorporated, or was basically, all these names that we mentioned before, from Perez all the way to Salma. And then Salma got Obed, and Obed Jishai, and Jishai David. So David belongs to Mahud down here. Okay, so Boaz was basically the incorporation of all those Sefirot of Seramping. Okay, so with that we have finished the book of Ruth. I hope you have find it really interesting. There's a lot more that we can talk, like I mentioned before. It's a whole bunch of things in Zohar Hadash and also in the Zohar. So if you have the Zohar Hadash and the Zohar, look for Ruth, and you will see, or even Shavuot. Shavuot and Ruth, everything is related, because the story of Ruth happened during the time of Shavuot. So now you're gonna have here with me a exclusive. This is a meditation that we're gonna be doing. This meditation is gonna be found in a future book that I'm working on right now. And what we're gonna do this meditation to finish our lesson. And here you're gonna see some of the concepts as well. So I'm gonna be reading this. If you want to, you can look at it and then rewind it and do the meditation after you have listened to me reading, and also reading as well together with me. But if not, just close your eyes, make sure you're in a comfortable position, and let's start the meditation. So make sure you find a comfortable place, whether it is laying down or sitting down. Now, try to breathe very slowly, very, very slowly. Try not to force the breathing. Place your right hand over the eyes and concentrate on the commandment of loving your neighbor as yourself. Meditate on the enlarged Ain in the Shema and the enlarged Dalet in the Echad of the Shema Israel Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. And what you're going to be is concentrating on the intention of channeling the energy of seramping. In your mind, say the Shema Israel Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. The next Kavanah before the second verse is a way to unite the three holy names of Ehyeh, Yoheh and the Vaheh, and Adonai. When we unite these names, it's like we're giving up our life for the satisfaction of our being, for the sanctification of our being, I must say. This meditation has a symbol of 4 methods of executions prescribed in the Torah, each one corresponding to a spiritual world that we have damaged by following the evil inclination. This meditation is a way to punish the death of punish our evil inclination to death. The 4 methods of punishment are as follow: skila, which is stoning; which is for the word of Atzilut, and it has to do with a spiritual aspect. Srifa, which is burning, is related to Bria, the word Bria, in our personal physical psychology is the intellect and the mind. Hereg, which is decapitation, belongs to the word Yetzirah, and our personal psychology is our heart or emotions or desires. Henek has to do with the world of Asiyah, and it is related to our physical body. So if you have your eyes closed, open your eyes and look at the Kavanot in the Hebrew letters. So you're going to have the Sekilah, the Sifra, the Hareg, and the Henek, with the Yod, He, Vav, and the He, and the Aleph, Dalet, Nun, Yod. Then you're gonna have the name over here, the Aleph, Head, Yod, and the Head. Now we can recite the second verse in an undertone. We concentrate on channeling the energy of Serampin into Malchut, or own word. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Blessed is the name of his glorious kingdom forever and ever. Now we recite the first paragraph containing 42 words that correspond to the 42-letter name of God in the prayer of the Ana Bekoach. This verse is from the Book of Deuteronomy, chapter 6, verse 5 and 6, and it will connect us to Chokmah. This paragraph connects us with the letter Yod of the name, the Yod, He, and the Vav He. We visualize the letter Yod in our head as a flame. We concentrate in the intention to eliminate negative aspects, thoughts, and guarding or openings such as our 2 eyes, 2 ears, and nostrils, and also our mouth. So imagine a yod in the top of your head or inside your head. And as you imagine that yod, scan the Ana Bekoach, and we're gonna say the Ve'ahavta. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך ומאוהדיך בכל לבביך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך וחיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושנתן לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשמך ובקומך ושרתם לעוד על ידיך והיו לטפות בעיניך ובטפתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. Take to heart this instruction which I charge you this day. Impress them upon your children. Recite them when you stay at home, when you're away, and when you lay down, and when you get up. Bind them as a sign on your hand, and let them to serve as a symbol on your forehead. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Now we recite the second paragraph, which has 72 words in it, and it corresponds to the 72 names of God. This verse is taken from Deuteronomy 11, verse 13-21, and connects us with Binah. This paragraph also connects us to the letter He of the name Yohe and the Vav He. We visualize the letter He in our shoulders, chest, and arm. We concentrate in the intention to renounce idolatry, which is following our egoistic nature and not loving our neighbors as ourselves. Okay, so we're gonna concentrate on visualizing the letter He in our torso, shoulders. And as we visualize this letter He, we will scan the 72 names of God. Then we continue with the 72 ואהבת לשמור תשמעו את מצוותי אשר אנוכי מצווה אתכם היום לשבע את אדוני אלוהיכם ולעבדו בכל לבכם ובכל נפשכם ונתתי בתר בתכם ביתו יורה ומחוש ויסתה דגנך ואת ראשך ובשעריך ונתתי עשה ודעך לכם ביתך ואכלת ושבעת ישמרו לכם פן יפתה איבתכם וברתם ועבדתם אלוהים אחרים בהשתחוויתם לכם וחרה אף אדוני בכם ועצר את השמיים ולא יהיה מטר ויה אדמה לא תיתן את יבולה ועבדתם מהרה מעל הארץ הטובה אשר אדוני נותן לכם. If then you obey the commandments that I enjoin upon you this day, loving the Lord your God and serving him with all your heart and soul, I will grant the rain for your land in season, the early rain and the late, you shall gather in your new grain and wine and oil. I will also provide grass in the field for your cattle, and thus you shall eat of your field. Take care not to be lured away to serve other gods and bow down to them, for the Lord's anger will flare up against you, and he will shut up the skies so that there will be no rain, and the ground will not yield its produce, and you will soon perish from the good land that the Lord is assigning to you. The third paragraph has 50 words corresponding to the 50 gates of Bina. This paragraph is taken from Numbers chapter 15, verses 37 to 41, and connect us with Serampin. As we recite this paragraph, let's visualize the letter Vav of the name Yohe and the Vav He in our abdomen. We concentrate in binding the evil inclination and eliminating any negative and egoistic thoughts from our being. ושמתם את דברי עלה אל לבבכם ואל נפשכם ושרתן אותן לעוד על ידכם והיו לבטטפות בין עיניכם ולמדתם אותם את ביניכם ודבר בם בשבתך וביתך ולבתך ובדרך ובשכבך ובקומך ותאהבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען ירבו ומכם ומי בניכם על האדמה אשר נשבע אדוני לה אבותיכם לתת לכם כי ימי השמיים על הארץ. Therefore impress these my words upon you in your very heart. Bind them as a sign on your hand and let them serve as a symbol in your forehead. And teach them to your children, reciting them when you stay at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you get up, and when you inscribe them in the doorposts of your house and in your gates, to the end that you and your children may enjoy in the land that the Lord swore to your fathers to assign to them as long as there is a heaven over the earth. The fourth and last paragraph of the Shema has 72 words corresponding to the 72 names of God. However, these 72 names of God follow a different order given by Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto. It is what is called a direct order. This paragraph is taken from Numbers 15, verse 37 to 41, and connect us to Malchut. When we recite this paragraph, we should visualize the last letter He from the name Yohe, Va, and the He on our hips, sexual organs, and legs. We concentrate in our intention that the 248 parts of our body and soul are connected and corrected, and that the evil inclination should not have power in what we do in our lives. So visualize that letter He, the lower part of your body. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe lemor, daver el bnei Israel, ve'amarta alechem v'asu lahem tzitzi al kanfei v'gadechem לדורותם ונתנו על ציצי הכנף בטיל תכלת והיה לכם לציצי וראיתם אותו וזכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני ועשיתם אתן ולא תתירו אחרי לבבכם ואחרי עיניכם אשר אתם שונאים אחריכם למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם. The Lord said to Moshe as follows: Speak to the Israelite people and instruct them to make for themselves fringes on the corner of their garments throughout their edges. Let them attach a cord of blue tejele to the fringe of each corner. That shall be your fringe. Look at it and recall all the commandments of the Lord, and observe them, so that you do not follow your heart and eyes in your lustful urge. Thus you shall be reminded to observe all my commandments, and to be holy to your God. I, the Lord, I am God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I, the Lord, your God. So, this meditation, I'm gonna post it in the website for those of you who are interested in having it printed out and follow it. It's a meditation on the Shema, but it's related also with these teachings that we are at this moment learning with Book of Ruth. Because one of the things that we do as Jews is basically say the Shema, and the Shema basically is our affirmation of faith. Affirmation of faith not in the religion of Judaism, but affirmation of faith on the belief and the certainty that the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. That is not this whole bunch of different systems and gods and forces, but all these forces and everything are one thing, one come from one source, and that source is the Creator. Okay, so with this we finish the lessons on the Book of Ruth. We hope you have enjoyed this. If you want to learn more, we are studying the Book of Zohar, and there will be more lessons pretty soon, the 72 names of God as well. You need to do it. All you need to do is visit www.receivingtheupperlight.com, and in there you will find everything that we have done so far. There's much more coming, so subscribe and make sure that you share this video with others, so other people can also at least understand that behind the Book of Ruth, it's not only a story of a first convert, that first convert meaning first convert that has been documented in Jewish history, but also documented so well, because there were other converts as well before her, but a convert that has to do with the lineage that will lead eventually to the tikkun of all humanity, to this consciousness called Mashiach. Okay, that's the difference between Ruth and other converts. And also, because this is a woman basically that she left everything to follow basically a stranger, right, to a strange land, and in there she basically became, as a stranger, later she became part of that land, part of that people, and became a mother to those people as well. Okay, and like I mentioned before, this the Book of Ruth is just a guide on what we need to do in order to redeem the sparks that fell down after the breaking of the vessel, how we can redeem these sparks, and how also these sparks are souls that we need to redeem, and how reincarnation actually works, and the reason why it needs to be redeemed. And we don't practice this thing probably in modern times, in which a woman loses her husband and brother needs to take care of that woman. We don't practice that. In reality, it has to do with forces, and something happened within ourselves. These things are happening. A male aspect, basically dies, and it needs to be redeemed. We need to redeem it by changing our nature, just like Ruth did. Ruth did, changing her nature to become just like her mother-in-law, mother for everyone else, correcting that what she did, which was disconnecting from Israel, now is connecting back to Israel and doing all this work in order to have all these people. Like at the end, we see this happy ending in which they say there's a son to Naomi. They didn't say Ruth. They say there is a son to Naomi. But Naomi now has this connection with the whole system, has this connection with the land of Israel, has this connection with the people of Israel. So I hope you have enjoyed, and I hope that we'll see you later in another lesson. So until next time, shalom.